morning, everybody. My name is Ann Monahan. I'm the current board president for the Arizona Autism Coalition, and I'm super excited to have everybody here. It's a lovely, full area, which is amazing, and we have some pretty amazing sponsors. We want to thank every single one of them. We have 20 of them, and they are out here in the patio area and then this courtyard area, so please, we really encourage you to get out, meet them, talk to them, learn what they do, how they can help you. If you're looking for a job, you're looking for some additional services, whatever it may be, please take a look at them. There's 20 of them, and that's pretty amazing. So I'd like to say thank you to all of them and give them a round of applause. Didn't mean to make you put down your bagel. Sorry, sweetie. Okay, so let's see. Oh, Joe. Dr. Joe. Who doesn't know Joe? One person. One person doesn't know you. Who are you? What's going on?
You were standing next to me. They'd all run away.
No.
I want to say, so I am the current president of the Arizona Association of Behavior Analysis.
Woo!
For about 2 more months. But for anybody in this room that was not in this room all day yesterday, I want to thank, we did like we did last year and the year before that, we had an all-day workshop with Dr. Mark Dixon, who you will see later today, sitting in the back. I wasn't able to be there, but I heard it was amazing.
Fantastic.
And so I have to thank Diana and Kelly Band and Aaron Blocker-Rubin and Christine Mooney for really, the other board members, for putting it all together. It was a packed house yesterday too for that.
Fantastic job.
It was great. We also, as you all know, can you raise your hand if you are here as a professional receiving CEUs? Okay, that's awesome. And raise your hand if you're another professional, but you're not getting CEUs because you're a professional parent or guardian or caretaker. Okay, so you two are professionals. So make sure you get all the CEUs signed. People are coming around. You have to have the signature. It's a big deal about getting the signatures. Yes, there's people who will be standing at the doorway.
Actually, who's going to be doing the CEUs?
We're all at this table.
All at this table. Can you all stand up?
And one more.
Great.
So find these guys if you need your CEUs.
I can sign them too. I just move a lot slower.
Yeah, Diana's just going to be sitting in the corner, and you got to get to her because she's not moving anywhere.
So as you'll see, right after our first keynote address with Dr. Danny Kessler, we are going to have a panel. Part of the panel is us, some other professionals answering questions, and you will see that in your folder is an index card. So if you have a question for that panel during the keynote, which you should be paying attention to what he's saying, but if you do lapse in judgment and have time to write down a question, write it on those index cards. We'll pick them up at the end and use those as the questions for the panel.
You good? Okay, so I think the group that you left out, Joe, is the people who are the administrator, the clinical people here. Not the clinical as in I'm working with a child, but the individuals who keep the businesses going, who do things like scheduling and billing and all that kind of stuff. Who do we have here from that world? Yes, thank you. Muy importante. Anyone can tell you, yeah. For all the clinicians and people who want to continue to do the amazing work that you do, you have all those people supporting you in the back end, and so I just want to give a shout out to them. I also want to talk about one thing really, really quickly. This table over here, so when I was walking around earlier talking to people, and oh, did she run away? She might have run away. So I was talking to some people, and Brad's here, and Brad works on housing, affordable housing. And as we all know, we're all aging, unfortunately. And I think it's kind of interesting that Brad took this opportunity to come here and learn more about what we do in our population and the people we have the privilege of serving, because that's what he does. Leisha says, oh, I'm just a foster parent. Oh, just a foster parent, right? So she's here because she's a foster parent and she cares and she's trying to learn more, and that's pretty amazing. And then Cheyenne from Easter Seals is also here because she's here to learn about everything that we do. So this little table here kind of represented to me kind of the best of who we are, providers, families, people in the community trying to work together to make things better. So I just really wanted to give them a little shout out because I thought it was pretty cool. So thank you for being here. Okay, so we may have had some changes in the rooms. Sorry guys, but there's some space restraints we've had, so we may have switched rooms for a few sessions. There's ambassadors in the hallways, guys, so if you don't know where you're going and you're trying to find a room, just ask one of them, they'll tell you where to go, okay? So if you have any questions, just grab any one of them. Mary and Isaac in the back, please walk up here and wave a little bit. Both of you. I'm mad with power, you know that. These two, Mary is the coalition guru. She does everything, and Isaac does all the social media, all that kind of stuff. They are amazing people, and they do amazing work. So please help me in thanking them for everything that they do. Okay, so now we have Dr. Kessler. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Daniel B. Kessler, or as most of us know him, just Danny. Just goes by Danny. He's a developmental behavioral pediatrician with over 30 years of clinical experience. Dr. Kessler served as the medical director of Southwest Human Development Children's Development Center, where he worked with a transdisciplinary team to provide comprehensive integrated care for young children with developmental behavioral disorders. He also served as the director of developmental behavioral pediatricians at the Children's Health Center of St. Joseph's Hospital and medical pediatrics at the University of Arizona College of Medicine. Dr. Kessler received the Phoenix Business Journal's Healthcare Heroes Award, I know, right, in 2013, and he's been recognized as a top doc by Phoenix Magazine, and he was on the list of best doctors in America on multiple occasions. Dr. Kessler, you did write it. It's fabulous, by the way. You are gifted. Yeah. Dr. Kessler is now retired. Boo! Sorry. And lives in Phoenix with his wife, Jill, and she's lovely. And he's amazing, and he was my son's developmental pediatrician before he decided to just retire. So he's an amazing individual, and we are so thankful to have him here. So please help me welcome Just Danny.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to try to talk loud. I talk loud anywhere from New York. I want to welcome you all to this conference. This is one of my favorite conferences to participate in, talk to. I want to thank the Arizona Autism Coalition and Dee Friedman. Dee Friedman, longtime friend, colleague of mine, who, upon knowing of my retirement, asked me to talk at this conference, and he said, wouldn't you like to talk about, in the context of your retirement,
Is that better or worse?
a little bit about the science and art of medicine? And I said, that's an interesting topic in the context of my retirement. Yeah, maybe I would like to do that. And so I kind of accepted it. And she said, oh, by the way, it's the keynote address of the conference. So I thought about it a little bit more. But
Kind of hard to hear.
kind of hard to hear.
Yeah.
All right.
That better.
I hope to listen. You're good. We're good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Anybody can hear me? All right. So we're going to go ahead. So I decided, yeah, that's an interesting topic. And so that's what I'm talking about. A little bit different than the rest of the talks you're going to hear today, but I think of some interest. This is who I am. I'm as you heard, a developmental behavioral pediatrician. Newly retired, 3 months of retirement, and I'm loving it, so that's a good thing. This is what I've done. So I was at the Children's Health Center for 22 years, and after that, I worked at Southwest Human Development, where I helped run their Children's Developmental Center clinic, and I ran my private practice as part of my activities there. So what I'm not going to talk about today is, what you're not going to hear from me anyway, is a lengthy scholarly discussion about the tension between the science and the art in medicine. okay? I'm also not going to talk about something that I began looking at when I began preparing this talk, art, the art of medicine, or medicine in art, okay? But having looked at that a little bit, I couldn't help but at least show you a couple of those pictures, okay? So this is, okay, so this is the anatomy lesson. This is a Rembrandt, a very famous Rembrandt. It's from 1632, and it's Dr. Nicholas Tull. And in this picture, he's showing these other physicians the dissection of the muscles of the arm, okay? People had to pay to be in this picture. They paid a commission to the artist, Rembrandt, in order to have themselves as being a part of this very famous painting. This is probably the first occurrence of paid promotional advertising by doctors. So I found it very interesting. Being where we are in the desert, I wanted to show this picture, Frontier Surgery. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of information about the artist or about this painting, but I really liked the painting. This is an engraving. This is an engraving by N. Louis Girardot. It's of Hippocrates, who is often considered the father of modern medicine. And the name of the engraving is Hippocrates refusing a gift from Alexander the Great. Okay? If this were an engraving today, it might be more appropriately labeled Hippocrates refusing a gift from the pharmaceutical industry. So Hippocrates, or at least attributed to Hippocrates, are a lot of what I consider very meaningful statements regarding the art and the science of medicine. So this is, there are in fact two things, science and opinion. The former begets knowledge and the latter ignorance. And this will come into play in our discussion of that tension between the art and science of medicine. Other sayings attributed to Hippocrates, which I find very meaningful: cure sometimes, treat often, comfort always. And then, again from Hippocrates, sorry because I can't see the slides without turning around, I don't want to do that. So, the art of medicine, or ethical considerations of medicine, have a very long history. And before modern medicine, and the point at which science began playing a much more important role, really the only thing that went into medicine was the art of medicine, caring for people, because the science was really very underdeveloped early in our life, but ethical considerations have always been important in the practice of medicine. They have a long history. This is in the Middle Ages. So this is a Persian scholar known as Razis, who contributed to the art of medicine and had a very strong commitment to the scholarly practice of medicine. But he also felt very strongly that we should have ethical and moral considerations in a physician's daily routine. This is the work of Maimonides in the Jewish tradition, the prayer of Maimonides, inspire in me a love for my art and for thy creatures. Let no thirst for profit or seeking for renown or admiration take away from my calling. Keep within me strength of body and soul, ever ready with cheerfulness to help and succor rich and poor, good and bad, enemy as well as friend. In the sufferer, let me see only the human being. That's a very powerful statement. But again, medicine has a very long tradition. We find medicine in ancient Egypt, and again, looking at this stuff, this is an ancient doctor's bed. This are drawings of the fetus in the womb by Leonardo da Vinci, and also the the art of medicine is involved in teaching of medicine. So these are two, this is, you can see it well enough, but these are art used in the instruction of medicine. So this is an amputation, and this is an exploration of the abdominal cavity. Okay. The practice of medicine. This is a quote from William Osler, also considered very strongly as the father of modern medicine. The practice of medicine is an art, not a trade. Calling, not a business. A calling in which your heart will be exercised equally with your head. The practice of medicine is an art based on science. This is my definition of medicine, art, or science. Okay? And I agree with Dr. Osler. Medicine is an art based on science. Medicine is an applied science. It's not a pure science. And its practice is an art. And frequently my answer to these questions on multiple choice tests are, it's all of the above. It's art, it's science, but increasingly there's also the business of medicine. And I'll talk a little bit about that toward the end of my talk. A little bit less encompassing in this dichotomy of art and science and medicine is the practice of medicine. Is the practice of medicine primarily a science or an art? And in this talk, I'm kind of reflecting on my 40 years of practice, my 40 years of medicine, 27 years here in Arizona. I'm not a primary care provider. As you heard, I'm a developmental behavioral pediatrician. Developmental and behavioral pediatrics is a subspecialization in pediatrics, like pediatric cardiology. So we're all trained in pediatrics. We go through the traditional training, medical school, 3 years of pediatric residency, and then we do a specialization in our area of interest. And the kinds of things, or the kinds of reasons that parents may have come to see me are the list that you see up here. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, children with autism, anxiety, and depression. I consider those all issues of emotional regulation. Feeding difficulties, dyslexia, nonverbal learning disorders, selective mutism, Fragile X, other genetic disorders, and deletion syndromes. And in my work with parents, what I endeavored to do was to always provide them really hard. I usually see it on the screen in front of me and I'm turning around. I apologize for that. We always provide parents information. What is it that they're seeing in their child? What do they need to know about those kinds of concerns? Provide them support and advocacy. Always referral, because the things that physicians do are not the be-all and end-all of the kinds of challenges that our parents and children experience. They need help from people in this audience, from people in schools, from people sometimes in law offices, in order to get the kinds of help and support that their children and their family need. So it doesn't end in my office. It often begins in my office. And I have to make sure that parents understand what their rights are, who are the people in the community that would be helpful to them, and I need to help them make those connections. I also provided intervention in my office. Sometimes children benefit from medication. It's always a parent's choice. It's never something I do. I don't put a child on medication. If it's an indication or a possible benefit for a child, we'll have a long discussion of that. What are the pros and cons of that? What are the side effects of those medications? What are the alternatives to medication? Oftentimes medication is an appropriate choice, and not choosing medication is a decision that parents will sometimes make. Okay. So these are the influences in my career. First of all, my medical training. So I went to medical school in New York at NYU. I did that after graduating with an engineering degree. hating engineering, but working in a hospital with doctors and other medical providers, and realized, gee, I really didn't like what I was doing. Maybe I can do more of what they're doing. And so went ahead, did some additional studying and coursework, which you have to do in order to apply to medical school. Applied to medical school, and then graduated and did my pediatric residency at Bellevue Hospital Center. Bellevue is your quintessential city hospital. We saw everything. We saw gunshots, we saw syphilis, we saw drug addiction, we saw measles, which is making a comeback because people are concerned about giving their kids immunizations. So we saw everything at Bellevue. It was an incredible opportunity to be introduced to the world of medicine. I did my pediatric residency at Bellevue, and then after I finished my residency and decided I wanted to do developmental behavioral pediatrics, and people sometimes ask me, why did I choose that as a specialty? Well, why did I choose pediatrics as a specialty? My answer to that, which is actually a truthful answer, is pediatricians had the most fun. Okay? They were playing with kids. Even kids who had challenges are an amazing group of individuals. And their parents who were seeking help and understanding. So this was, for me, a natural. And then in my pediatric residency, how did I choose developmental pediatrics? I'd say another developmental pediatrician just walking into the room on Blitz. Developmental pediatricians are having more fun than pediatricians. We actually got to play with kids. And so that was the area that I went into. So my fellowship training was at Boston Children's Hospital. I did 2 fellowships there. I did a fellowship with Eli Newberger, who ran a training program in family violence and child abuse, which was really quite an eye-opener to me, because it became apparent to me that even parents in those situations often were in very complex situations. They needed understanding and support. And then I did a 2-year fellowship with T. Barry Brassic. I don't know if anybody knows. Who knows T. Barry Brassic? T. Barry Brassic was the pediatrician after Spock who kind of became the guru of family. His books were very popular, and he was an incredible man. And I often reflect on the fact that in the middle of my fellowship, the 2nd year of my fellowship, we threw Barry a 64th birthday party. And here it was, I'm now 67, but I was retiring at that point, and he was in the midst of continuing this incredible fellowship program. So it was really quite a privilege to train with him, learn from the other fellows, the other participants in that fellowship program. And one of the things that was very important to Barry was the understanding that individual differences among us, among children, were present at a very early age. And parents needed to understand those characteristics of their infants, how they meshed with their own personalities in order to make the best opportunities of those experiences. And also partnering with families. Families were, in fact, where children grew up. And we had to not only care for the children, but understand parents, their personalities, their backgrounds, their culture, in order to provide the most appropriate care to their children. We also took into perspective what we call biopsychosocial pediatrics. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the slide. And then after my fellowship, I worked, I was in New York for 7 years, and then I moved to Phoenix in 1990, worked at the Children's Health Center at St. Joseph's Hospital, which was an incredible experience. And then for the last 5 years of my practice, I joined Southwestern Development, which I always describe as biggest secret in Arizona. It's the largest nonprofit human service provider for children. It was an incredible experience, incredible team that I worked with there. It was really a privilege to work with them. Family-centered care. I want to talk about that. These are things that really went into my practice. I really think they're very important for us to understand, or for me to understand, what is family-centered care. Family-centered care is a partnership approach to healthcare decision-making between the family and the healthcare provider. It looks at strengths in the child and in the family rather than deficits. Like I said, it's a partnership model rather than the expert one, where the physician is the expert, dictates to the family what they need to do, and they just follow his orders. That's not the way family-centered care works, and is an inappropriate approach to healthcare. It involves information sharing rather than information gatekeeping. When parents came to see me, and I have some former patients in this audience, they would leave my office with a stack of material. And again, it was not always, I wouldn't talk down to families. They got the same material that I read. Okay? If they needed help understanding it, I provided them that help. But they got a whole book of material when they left my office. That way they can listen to what I said during that hour consultation, but then they can ask questions. They can reflect on the material that they went home with. They can email me afterwards, and I was always available by email to my family. So that was a very helpful way to continue the communication after that. So information sharing, flexibility rather than rigidity, empowerment rather than dependence. Soon after I came to Arizona, I got involved with Pilot Parents, which became Raising Special Kids. And that was an incredible opportunity for me. I really learned from that experience. Soon after I came here, so I came here in 1990. In 1991, I arranged for Betsy Trombino and myself. Betsy was an early participant in Pilot Parents. I arranged for St. Joe's to pay for myself and Betsy to go to a conference in Vermont, which really took a while to get to. There were no direct flights. There was no airport really close by to where the conference was, so it was really quite an experience getting there. But it was the Institute for Family-Centered Care, and that was an amazing experience, contributed to my practice in medicine. Biopsychosocial approach. This is what I think is very strongly a part of most developmental practices, or at least I would hope so. And what this means is we take into consideration not only the biology of the situation, so not only the science of medicine, understanding the underlying factors involved in a child's challenges, or the disease process, or the handicapping condition, or the different ability that this child or family may be experiencing, but the broader social context, the cultural context, the family context. Practitioners who adhere to this approach bring both an appreciation for the physical or medical aspects of the disorder or disability, as well as an appreciation for the normal aspects of development. This is really an important underlying factor of developmental pediatrics. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the science. Okay, there is no medicine, in my belief, without science. Science is extremely important to the practice of medicine. However, so part of the science is understanding the biology, the physical attributes of a process that's creating a challenge for a parent or a child. So critical thinking, looking at the evidence, pattern recognition. What does this look like to me? What is this most likely representing in terms of of what might be affecting that child or family is very important. But then it's using that information within the context of this child and this family, okay? And I often use the understanding that a disease is what's described in the textbooks that we as physicians read. However, an illness is what's experienced by that child and that family in the context of their family life, their social situation, their values. Very different, need to consider both aspects of care. And again, William Osler urged physicians to care for the patient and not the disease, to employ empathy, humanity, and love, and accept that uncertainty and error are unavoidable in the practice of medicine. However, medicine without science is quackery. Okay? And in my career, I've often experienced that families will sometimes choose art over science. If they have a caring provider in front of them who appears to be answering their questions, that might be a more powerful impetus to their care than the science. And that's sometimes a problem for me when I see how others practice. Okay. The trouble or the limitations of the science is what is accepted as scientific today may be discarded by medical practitioners tomorrow as new evidence comes to light. Okay? And it's often said that half of what is true today will be proven to be incorrect in 5 years. The trouble is we don't know which half. Okay? That makes it very challenging to use simply the science without understanding the context in which we practice. And I also think medicine without the art of medicine is heartless. And these are my concerns as I reflect on the practice of medicine and the changes that we've experienced in the practice of medicine in the last 20 or so years. Are the current trends in medical care leading to a devaluing of the art of medicine and the physician-patient relationship? There's increasing regulations involving medicine and barriers to the direct physician-patient relationship. I want to talk a little bit about electronic medical records, which is everywhere today. And this was thought to be a very positive development that would allow physicians to communicate with one another more easily, to share information so that a family coming into the healthcare system wouldn't have to tell their story again and again and again. Okay? But it's not only physicians that care for these families. Okay? And these electronic medical records often didn't communicate with one another, so that it really didn't lead to the kind of freeing up of information sharing that was originally thought to happen. So this is work that still needs to be done. Okay, so there's a recent survey that I read. These are two practices with regard to medical practice that physicians have begun to adopt. One is electronic medical records, where you go to your physician's office and he either has a tablet or a desktop computer or a notebook in front of him, and he's talking with you and talking with the family, and also looking at a screen. Okay? Alternatively, some physicians have had scribes. You know what a scribe is? A scribe is another provider who comes into the office with the physician and is taking down notes as the physician is talking to the family, so that the physician doesn't have to break that contact with the family. So they did a survey of how families were accepting these new practices. Interestingly enough, parents were not concerned as much about the physician looking at a computer screen as they were about a scribe in the office. This was a break in the physician-patient relationship. This was someone they didn't know, they did not have a relationship with, and they were part of this interaction where a family was sharing all kinds of very sensitive information. They were uncomfortable with this third person in the office, and I found that very interesting. Okay. The art of medicine. Just turn it off. Oh, okay. Too many buttons. Okay. All right. The art of medicine is the art of human relationships. Okay. It's all about concern, communication, compassion, and care. And actually, listening to a family that comes into your office is more important than talking. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about an article that I read during my fellowship with Dr. Brazelton, a very small article from the Lancet, 1961, called 6 Children with Cough. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in just a little while. So listening takes time, which is an increasingly short supply in medical encounter. Okay? Before I talk a little bit more about that, I want to talk a little bit about the power of words. Okay. The power of words. Words can comfort and reassure. You will be all right. Don't worry. I am here for you. I will never leave you. Words are powerful. Words can inspire. And change the world. Words have inspired generations and brought people together. Words motivate us. The right words, spoken in the right way, can bring us love, money, and respect, while the wrong words, or even the right words spoken in the wrong way, can lead a country to war. This quote actually comes from this book, Words Can Change Your Brain, which was published in 1994. This is really kind of a self-help book. Actually, I think the authors of this were kind of selling a program that they felt words can change your brain, 12 conversation strategies to build trust, resolve conflict, and increase intimacy. And they called this strategy compassionate communication. You can see a little bit more about this. It says positive words such as peace and love can alter the expression of genes, strengthening areas in our frontal lobes, promoting the brain's cognitive functioning, and can, as a result, propel the motivational centers of the brain into action and build resiliency. Negative words or hostile language can disrupt specific genes that play a key role in the production of specific neurochemicals that provide protection from stress. I actually went ahead and bought this book, and I wasn't all that impressed with it. But it's an interesting concept, and again, it gives you the sense that the words we use are very powerful. In a similar vein, this is the work of Amy Cuddy. Amy Cuddy is a social psychologist at the Harvard Business School. She also has the distinction of her TED Talk, which was in 2012, is the second most viewed TED Talk of all time. And this is her book, Presence. And her thought, her concept is that people judge you when they first meet you based on only 2 things. They very quickly make these judgments. Can I trust this person? And can I respect this person? Okay? Psychologists refer to these dimensions as warmth and competence. And you might think, and people certainly in a professional setting, if they're interviewing somebody for a job or for an educational opportunity, that competence is the most important factor that we make in judging people. And that, in fact, is not the case. It's really warmth or trustworthiness as the most important factor in how people evaluate you when they first meet you. In a matter of minutes, they've made an opinion of how you're going to be helpful to them. And then lastly, from a reliable source. This is Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Words are our most inexhaustible source of magic. Okay. I borrowed these slides from Catherine Alonso, who's a partner at Hamilton, a public relations firm. Okay, so words matter. And I've already told you that I think listening is much more important than talking. And that comes from this article that I told you about, called 6 Children with Cough. This was published in The Lancet in 1961. And it describes the situation in which 6 children Okay. These are 6 children coming into doctor's offices, all of them with a complaint of cough. Okay? And if the physician ended his investigation or her investigation at that point, they would have been really in the wrong ballpark. Because each parent had another concern that wasn't immediately in evidence. They each had experiences in their family that caused them to worry that this cough was something else. It wasn't just a cold, it wasn't an allergy, it wasn't a respiratory concern. What else could it be? And it wasn't until the physician dig down into their concerns that they really understood. In one case, a family had a family member who was just diagnosed with lung cancer. And their concern was, could this cough be lung cancer? In another situation, there was another family circumstance, and that was the family's concern. But the parent wouldn't necessarily voice this as their first set of information. It wasn't until the physician, in a very empathic way, would inquire, what else could this be? What did the parent think it was? Okay? Tell me more about this. And so you really have to open yourself up, listen to a parent's underlying concerns in order to understand what they might be worried about. Questions like, tell me more about that. What do you think? How do you feel about that? What are your ideas? And after you get some information from a parent, what else? What else? And it wasn't until the 3rd or 4th level of inquiry which the physician was actually able to understand why this parent was in their office at that time. So listening is really more important than talking. All right, I talked about the science of medicine. I talked about the art of medicine. This is a little bit more the principles of family-centered care. This is a little bit more of a formal statement from the Institute for Family-Centered Care. You can look at it here. It will be on the website after the conference. We talked about the art of medicine. There now is the science of the art of medicine. We can study everything. This is the American Academy on Communication and Healthcare, which really looks at what goes into communication, what are the important attributes of how we communicate with others. And you can look at their mission and vision statement. Okay. In ending, little bit about the business of medicine. This is what concerns me. And we have very little control over this. Healthcare in our country is considered a commodity, not a right. As a country, we have decided that medicine and capitalism are a simple match. We have done so despite the fact that almost no other developed nation considers this a way to spend healthcare. Our fee-for-service compensation system contributes to that problem. I think we really need to look at this and feel as a society, is this the best way to do that? I don't have any solutions. We need to focus more on outcomes and less on number of procedures performed as a basis for compensation. Reimbursement practices, as they exist today, do not adequately support physician time and effort to implement effective partnerships with families, putting motivated practitioners at risk for diminished reimbursement. Physicians get paid for procedures. They don't get paid for the time and thought they put into the care that they provide for families. And so, developmental pediatrics, which has very few procedures, but has a lot of opportunity to sit and talk with families, we're not money makers. As Rob could attest, hospitals employ us because if they have a pediatric residency, they are required to have a developmental pediatric rotation in pediatrics. But we don't admit a lot of families to the hospital. If we admit a family to the hospital, sometimes we've done something wrong. And so we're not money makers for hospitals. We're not big on their list as people to employ and serve the public good. So that's a challenge for developmental pediatrics. There's the corporatization of medical care. Large for-profit healthcare entities have the ability to distort the practice of medicine for profit. This is a while ago, but the Hospital Corporation of America, which is the largest for-profit hospital chain in the country, has been under investigation for providing incentives to hospitalized patients. The hospital is the last place you want to be. And so to provide physicians incentives to hospitalize families is really a distorted aspect of medicine. Even when doctors have banded together to form healthcare entities, they become dependent on corporate types who might not always agree that patients come before profits. Even in the nonprofit hospital organizations that I've been a part of, not separate I often heard in corporate meetings, there is no mission without margin. Okay? Unless they're making money, they can't put on these opportunities and benefits for families. And healthcare in our society is more or less dispensed through healthcare insurers, many of which are for-profit institutions. Okay? And they may believe that their fiduciary obligation, their financial obligation, is to their shareholders, okay? Not their policyholders. So the more care they provide for their families, the less profit they make for shareholders. Where is their primary responsibility? Okay? That's a concern that I have. And same thing for large pharmaceutical corporations who control the cost of medications. And I think it's very revealing, I'm not saying this because I wasn't paid for what I did, I'm no longer being paid for what I did, but the top earners in medicine are not MDs. Okay? and I recently reposted in Facebook, if that's where my professional presence is these days, a list of the CEOs of 8 of the large healthcare insurance companies. $11 million, $27 million, $43 million, $56 million. These are incredible salaries for people who provide little in the way of health care. Okay? That's a distortion of our system, and I think, again, I don't have a ready solution for, but I think is inappropriate. That's all I have to say. This is my dog Rudy Kessler, who is a differently abled, three-legged multi-poo, who I walk every morning, now that I'm home, and brings me great joy, and cuddles with me on the couch as I watch tape shows, and I tape the evening before. Thank you very much.